Hey, welcome everyone to a new YouTube video, and in today's video I just want to make it a very raw and pure and authentic video where I share 8 lessons that have helped me become a multi-millionaire at the age of 23 and running 2 businesses that collectively bring me in as a business owner $500,000 in cash collected per month. And now I don't want to be talking about any of the tactics, any of the anything regarding that. I really just want to talk about the lessons that I got as a man, as an entrepreneur, that I have learned. And of course, I've got a very long journey ahead, but that I want to share with you that have made a big, significant difference in, the growth trajectory I've went through as a person. So I've got them all right here. It's 8 lessons. And the first one is the most powerful one, in my opinion, which is, having a strong why, right? And having something that fuels you. Ever since I started entrepreneurship, like on day 1, when I had no business or I was just starting it up, right? My mother has been the main motivator for me, right? If you don't know, my mother passed away when I was about 12 years old. She had like a brain hemorrhage, happened twice, and then she was declared brain dead. And then, at that point, we lost her, unfortunately. And it's weird how even after 11 years, you can still feel the pain. And pain can be used in 2 ways, right? It can be used in a way where you're sad and you do nothing and you get all depressed, right? Depression is a symptom of being in pain. So I used it in the opposite way, where I used it as fuel, right? I started to go to the gym. I would always hold a picture in front of myself of my mother and motivate myself and, wanting to make her proud. So having a strong why is what's going to fuel you and would fuel me every single day to get to work and, just focus on that as my why. Right, like it's helped me become a very muscular, bodybuilder, I guess you could say, like at the time when I was very much focused on it. And then I shifted those same beliefs and the disciplines that I've created from fitness into starting a business. And at the time too, those were the beliefs that I was shifting, and my why was still, and to this day, it still is my mother, right? Because I want to make her proud and take care of the family. And I believe without why, without fuel, without emotion, you're only going to be able to get so far, right? Like I believe as a man, you need a purpose and you need to have something that drives you genuinely, not some BS you write on a notepad, not some random picture or quote motivates you, like something that if you look at makes you feel something. That's, in my opinion, what a why would mean if you were to have one, right? And I'm sure we all have this, right? And I attribute that why to a lot of the growth that I've seen as a person, as an entrepreneur. So that's lesson 1, have a why as an entrepreneur, because again, without it, what is the meaning of anything we're building, right? I love this quote that I saw in 2019 of October, and it's a biblical quote, and it says, "For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world, but he loses his soul?" Which to me translates into, what does all this money mean if you've got no one to share it with, if you're not doing it for something? Right? And that's what I felt like at that time. And it's when I also put my life partner, right? And, I've been able to build so much and give so much as well, which I'm so grateful for. And don't boast with too much, because I just like to do things in private. But it's all come and stemmed from the why to begin with, right? So that's 1. That's lesson 1. Having a strong why and let it be the fuel for everything. Second, right? It's kind of like what I just said. The second lesson that, more so a lesson that's helping me become a multimillionaire at 23 is, it's not about what you do in public, it's what you do in private, right? I see a lot of people, especially in our space, try to be someone they're not on their stories and on their feed, and I don't blame it. Like that's really what almost everyone does on social media. But I can tell you that people really recognize if you're authentic or not, because, nowadays the internet's been out for almost a dozen years now, and people can really tell if someone's just BSing and faking and just showing off and flexing and has no values versus someone that has values, is authentic, and has the right traits and values behind them, right? This doesn't just help you as a person. If you want to build your brand and you want to be a coach or consultant with a personal brand, it's so important to understand how to be authentic, and it's usually not very difficult. We make it difficult for ourselves because we just model everyone we see, right? Like we try to model this person that's successful, like Alex Hormozi or Sam Ovens or Russell Brunson. We try to be someone we're not, like Iman Gadzhi too. It's funny, like Iman Gadzhi, I know him. I've been a client of his. He's been a client of mine for a month. And I used to try and model him. And it's funny, even if you go onto like the SMMA space, you see even people talking like him. It's ridiculous, And this is not meant with any judgment. This is more so like what is so, the space is so full of that it just needs more authenticity. And you see every top dog is a top dog because they're authentic and they bring their own perception into the space and share it with people and share the value, right? So, and this, again, like what I just said, right? Like the lesson, it's not about what you do in public, it's what you do in private. And because Iman and all these top dogs, they take good care of themselves, they develop themselves, they think for themselves, that's why people look up to them, right? And it's like this huge crowd, which I believe like everyone's a part of when you just start out. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with imposter syndrome, but at one point you're gonna have to like really focus on creating a personality and an identity for yourself instead of like just trying to, be like someone else or pretend to be someone that you're not. So focus on being a good person in private, like wake up on time, go to the gym, eat your meals, read the Bible, do things that allow to add character to you as a person and help you add character traits that make you a powerful person and with it a powerful entrepreneur. And then with that, it's so much easier to become successful in the space because it becomes a byproduct. So it's lesson 2. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Focus on being a good person in private, not just in public, right? So that is the second lesson. And then the third lesson I'm going to be reading out right now is keep your cash in the bank. And that's because if you want to go from rich to wealthy, it requires capital, right? Like if you're watching this YouTube video, you may be doing 100K per month, you may be doing 10K per month, maybe you're not making any money, but doesn't matter where you're at. If you're at a point where you're getting a lot of cash flow in or you've yet to make a lot of cash flow, my advice to you is this. Keep your cash in the bank. Just reinvest back into your business. Don't get into stocks, crypto, real estate until like you have a few million in the bank, right? Because if you think about it, like at the beginning, like when we just start out and we're trying to create like all this wealth for ourselves, we always just think about money. We think about like this person saying yes on sales calls. We think about like paying our team. And, like the goal is to get to a point in your life where you're financially so set that you can make decisions from, a different place instead of just scarcity and, having to fill up that bank account. Not just that, the biggest thing is that you're gonna, like if you wanna get wealthy, you wanna have passive income, right? You wanna have like real estate bring you in 60 to 100K per month. It requires 2 million down with the bank to get 6 million worth of properties through a loan. And then with that, you can make a 10 to 50% return, which is 720K to 1.1 million a year with real estate. But that means you first need to get that 2 million liquid in your bank, for example, if that is your goal, which is my goal. So if you're a coach or you're in a cash flow business, right, because that's mainly who my audience attracts and is, keep your cash. It's very controversial, like compared to what everyone out there says, like invest, but I can tell you like you're not gonna get wealthy from investing 10K or even 100K or even 500K into the S&P 500 or crypto or stocks. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm saying like the likelihood is 0.5% or maybe even lower, right? I've almost never seen anyone like actually get wealthy. Wealthy means, you're not trading your time for income. You've got assets that are producing you income. And to get those assets, that requires quite some money, especially with the inflation and things going up. So if you're a coach, don't just spend, your money everywhere because you don't know what else to do with it. Just keep it in the bank. And of course, get a good tax strategy as well. And do that. Because trust me, a year later, when you stack a good amount of cash in the bank, you're going to thank yourself. Because imagine like 4 years from now, you have like 10K or 100K in the bank. You're not going to be happy because of the fact that you don't have any capital, riches to go from rich to wealthy. So make sure you do that, right? Like right now in my journey, we've got 5 million liquid after tax in the business, and I'm going to invest 2 million off that into real estate. And then I've got like a big safety net still in my bank to reinvest them into my business, and then 2 million to real estate. And with that, I've got a bunch of time on my side and also capital and safety on the side as I'm building passive income, right? Not an expert. For those who follow my journey, this is just a part of my journey, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and the way I'm structuring it, right? So if you're a coach, keep your cash in the bank, only reinvest into your business and be smart with it and have a good tax strategy. Okay, next, trust your intuition, ignore outside noise, and don't be afraid to say no. Quite often, like 99% of the times, we know what we want, but we block ourselves from getting to that answer because of fears and things that are running in the subconscious, right? And it's very important that you learn how to trust your own intuition, because if you don't trust your own intuition, then you don't really have a guiding star. Like some people call intuition God, some people call intuition just, like your feeling. Intuition is just what you feel is right. And yes, you could make a mistake. Yes, you could go wrong, but that's where you learn lessons from. And guess what? As you improve the strength and decision-making process of your intuition, it's going to guide you to wherever you need it to be. You're never going to have to rely on someone else. Now, I'm not saying don't take a coach, don't take a mentor. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying learn how to trust yourself first instead of having to rely on others, someone else's opinion, what your coach says, and just pretending to be like a robot that, ask, what do I got to do? And then your coach says something and then you do it and then you don't even know why you're doing it because, just because your coach is saying it, you're doing it. And trust me, that's not how you find success. I've coached thousands of people, my team has, and collectively, like I've seen the people who crush it and are successful in this space and are also great people, right, are the people that trust your intuition and know how to think for themselves. It's critical thinking is what most people call it, right? But I just call it trusting your intuition with that ignoring like the outside noise. So people telling you like, hey, you should do this, you should do that, or your parents, or anyone else, like your peers. Trust your intuition. If you have a mentor, of course, listen to your mentor, but make your own decisions. Trust your intuition. It's like so rare, but it should be something that is not rare, right? Trust your intuition. So that is the other lesson that I wanted to share, which pretty much was lesson number 4. And to top that off, because I don't want to move to 5 yet before I say this, don't be afraid to say no. I used to be very much a people pleaser, and my energy's changed a lot because of business mainly as well. Like in business, personally, like I'm still, quite the same, I would say. Definitely have had some changes over the time, but don't be afraid to say no. I used to be a people pleaser, and I would do anything to keep my clients. And I think that that's normal because I wanted to also, create my riches and, do anything to get there. But then when you're at that place where you're not like making the main decisions from having to make money, but rather like what you really want and what you value, that's very different. And you're only going to get there if you learn how to say no. So don't be afraid to say no, right? That's going to be a big asset. Such a simple thing, right? Nowadays, I say almost no to everything. And man, have I hurt people's feelings? Sure. Do some people not like it? Sure. Is it worth it? 1,000,000%. Right? Trust me, guys, learn how to say no and your life will look a lot different. So next lesson is lesson number 5, which is always take full responsibility over everything and have a student mindset. The people that I've seen succeed, including myself, right? And don't get me wrong when I say this, I don't mean like I've learned everything. Just to get to the point where I am, I've always taken full responsibility over everything, right? Like if I invested into a program wasn't good, I wouldn't just blame the coach and say it's all your fault and it's on you. I'm like, no, this is on me. Like I've decided to invest. I've decided to put my money here and I've decided to follow this path. What's the lesson I can take away from this? Instead of playing some victim mindset, right? The biggest thing fundamentally for any man or female entrepreneur, in my opinion, is to have a sense of always taking responsibility and not playing victim. And that's the thing that I said just then, right? Like, it's not about when you're in public, it's about when you are in private. If you know, you're a victim and, you always complain and then you pretend to be some crazy good coach or, personal brand, that hurts you and no one else, right? Because you're in conflicting identities. And it's not even because of that why you should always take full responsibility. When you take full responsibility, something now is in your control. When you blame something else, it is now in that thing or person's control. When you play victim, there's no solutions. You're just crying and emotional and, things are unable to change because of that, right? So that's a big lesson that I want to share with everyone. And it's, again, a very simple one. And some people are too prideful, have a big ego, so they can do this, right? But it takes you to take your ego aside, your pride aside, and learn how to take full responsibility over everything that is technically on you, right? So that's a very big one. The next one is look at business logically, use data, and leave your emotions out. I used to be pretty emotional last year, and it's something that I've learned the hard way by having team members leave, by having, a certain refund request, and I would deal with it pretty, well, I wouldn't say intensely, but I could have definitely done a lot more professional. I would react from the heart is what I mean. I'm not flaming you or something or doing something crazy. It's more like when something like a team member would make a mistake would happen, or a client would ask for a refund, right? Which is very rare to happen, but if it were to happen, then I would be very reactive. I read it, I feel an emotion, I immediately respond, wow, I should basically just take a few minutes, think, come up with a logical solution, think like, what's the best for this person, and then respond, right? Instead of like, oh, but that's odd because blah, 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 right? And it's tough, don't get me wrong, because we're emotional beings, right? And it's what makes us feel, when it's what makes things worth it. But it's better at the end of the day to like prioritize this point of view first, and to have this perception, this way of thinking where you look at things logically, you use data, you leave your emotions out the door. Most problems are never getting solved because people are too emotional, their ego is too big, or they're too prideful, while sometimes all they need to hear is to just shut up, do this, these are the numbers, and just get to work. And you'll be surprised like how many people say like, no, blah, 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 this doesn't feel aligned with me, and this and that. I'm like, look, you're either running a business or you're here to like, feel certain feelings that come out of your business. Which one do you want? Do you want results or do you want feelings? Right? You can't have both. I mean, after you get business results, you're happy. So I guess that's a win-win, but before you get there, you gotta pick one, right? And it's a tough one. And it's not something that you hear or see about often, but I'll tell you from experience, this happens quite often. And by the way, guys, as I'm saying this, I'm not saying this with any judgment or negativity. It's just my observation of like what I see, and a lesson that I've had to go through as well to become a better entrepreneur and a better person. So that is a very powerful lesson I wanted to share with you. Next one is find a life partner, right? It's lesson number 7. Aim to be a provider and a man with character and values, right? It's kind of like takes me back to public-private, right? As I kind of like just mentioned. I believe as a man, there's nothing more fulfilling than providing, protecting, and becoming the best version of yourself. Yesterday we made $20,000, day before 30, day before 40. I don't share it on social media anymore. Last year I do it all the time because it felt like it made me cool and it gives me authority. It's great. But I just love the progress. I just love making my team rich. I love making my clients rich. I love being a man of integrity and knowing that the things that I do are for a good cause, right? So back to finding a life partner, right? Because I remember, as I read out that quote about 10 minutes ago, I was making all this money, but I had no one to share it with, right? And so at that time, like, I was very lonely and I felt very sad. And because of that, like, I got more intentional about finding a relationship, which, now I'm in a 3-year relationship already, almost 3 years, with Anik. And it's been amazing. We're still together. Things are great. Communication is amazing. Everything is great. But the most valuable part for me as a man in this relationship is like being able to provide and having an opportunity to do so for the right person with the right vision. And I think as a man, that is very valuable because it can be a very lonely journey. I've got peers that have been alone too, in their journey. And it can be very tough when you're alone, because when you're alone, it feels empty. Like you're in this big house, you've got all this money, you sign up for work and there's no one to talk to, there's no one to share it with. And that's a very empty feeling. So finding a life partner, not immediately. I'd say like get your stuff together first, of course, right? And then from there, once you've like developed your character, your traits, your values, you're there, you're making some money, you're becoming a decent man, find a life partner, right? That's something that I wish I did sooner. I feel like I did it pretty early on and pretty good timing wise, but a lot of people, don't do this. And I'm not saying you should, it's just something that, I'm sharing as a lesson, and that's fill the void that I felt. Yeah. So that's lesson 7. And the last one is don't care about what other people think. Do what you want. Like recently I've been more direct, and maybe some people find me cocky. And I had a conversation with Anik, I was like, babe, do you think I'm too direct? Do you think like I'm too cocky? Am I negative? Because when I say direct things, I don't mean to be like a negative dickhead, right? It's just become more of part of my character. And I'm kind of afraid of this because last year I used to be that bubbly and very exciting person. Now I'm more like direct, business, stoic, relaxed, more of a man, right? And I believe that, a big part of becoming a man is not caring about people, what people think of you, right? And it's easier said than done, for sure. especially when you have a business that's all being like around people and maintaining a good relationship. So it's a tough one, you know? But I'd say you're better off not caring about what people think, but contextually, you have to make sure that it's not like from a place of, I don't give a fuck and, you know, I'm the best and this and that. Like, it's just do you. It's why you shouldn't care what people think. Most people are disabled from doing what they want to do because they care too much about what people think. And that's the context behind it. Just do what you want. So guys, those are 8 lessons that I wanted to share that have helped me become a multi-millionaire. And of course, for more tactics, you can find them on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook group. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.